speaker. And I was the Speaker of the Republic of Texas for 1.5 years before I had to go to New York on another contract. Over the years, I've learned that we're under martial law. All courts are corporate commercial courts in business to make a profit. All courts are banks and leverage the filing fees. All judges and prosecutors are getting royalties from every case they hear. There's no real justice in these courts. They will slap whoever violated your rights, but it will be behind the scenes. They're not going to admit that anything that you did had any effect. But I guarantee you that you can liquidate their bonds. I mean, you can hurt them in a major way. When you follow this procedure, you can hurt them in a major way, yes.
So are you going to show us how to liquidate their bonds?
Well, basically, what I don't know if there's a particular procedure, except that I just file a criminal complaint and I send it to everybody and their brother. and you know, you might be able to go to risk management. You know, I don't know who to contact or anything. I just start inviting everybody to the party and start filing criminal complaints against everybody. And ultimately, if the problem goes away, then that's fine. And if it doesn't go away, then I file a lawsuit. And that's why with Lethbridge, they think they're gonna have a trial. And so I'm going to file this lawsuit. And there's a thing in the law about conspiracy. If you file a lawsuit and allege a conspiracy, and then you got to show and act in furtherance of the conspiracy after you file a lawsuit, which is kind of a difficult thing to do. But if they're going to have a trial, then and I file a lawsuit, and then they have the trial, well, then that'll be an act in furtherance of the conspiracy after I file a lawsuit.
And they're in conflict too.
Huh?
They're in conflict.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm gonna, you know, make it so that you know, I guarantee you, there's gonna be heads rolling over this. But
You had an agreement with them already.
I don't know. I don't consider the agreement that I have is called the oath of office, and they perjured that. So I don't, you know, I'm going for the juggler.
Okay.
Anyways. I don't see. There's a thing, and I understand what you talk about with agreements and everything like that. There's a thing in the law called, and I've seen court cases that talk about it, about the language of sovereignty. Okay, and so the way I look at it, I'm using the language of sovereignty. I'm telling them the way it is, and it's not negotiable, and it's because I'm the king and they're my servant, and that's the agreement, is their oath of office to protect my rights, and there's no other agreements, and I don't have to get something in writing from them. There's already something in writing. Over the years, I learned that there's no de jure government operating on the planet except for the Republic of Texas, that almost all laws are color of law, that all countries are under martial law, and that they've set everybody up for slavery. Do you want to be a slave? Is there a price for your freedom that you're not prepared to pay? The burden is on you to assert your rights. If you do not assert your rights, you lose them. Anything you say can be used against you in court of law. I mean, they tell you that all day long. So what makes you think that it's not going to happen? And so that's why I don't, the only thing I give them, I don't give them their straw man's driver's license. I tell them in my paperwork, I don't have one. I'm not going to have one. And I give them this. It's in the paperwork package.
I salvaged mine from a junk.
Right here. That's what I give them. I've got a certified copy in my truck, and it's apostilled. It's a government document. It says right up here, it's recorded at the Pinal County Recorder's Office, and it's verified by an officer of the court. It's notarized. Okay. And when I got stopped in Calgary, they asked me. They said, "You got a driver's license?" And I said, "No." I said, "There's no such thing as a driver's license under Texas law." I said, "Why would I want one of those?" And I pulled up my Texas court cases to say there's no such thing as a driver's license. So then they say, "Well, you're in Alberta, you got a driver's license." And I says, "Well, actually, Alberta recognizes Texas law." And so then that changed that subject. Then they said, "You got any ID?" And I said, "Well," I said, "I got this," and I pulled it out. And I said, and then they said, "Well, is there a birth date on here?" And I says, "Well, I have no first-hand knowledge of that." And I said, furthermore, I said, "That would be hearsay evidence in a court of law, so it's inadmissible as evidence that there was." And so then that ended that part of the conversation. And so anyways, it kind of went back and forth. And then they wanted registration and insurance on my vehicle. And I told them, I said, I may have that, I said, but if you got a court order? And they said, no, but if you don't produce it, we're going to seize your vehicle. And I said, well, you know, you can do that if you want. I said, but you might as well, if you're going to violate your rights under martial law with your military uniforms and your guns, and violate my Magna Carta protected rights that says that you cannot go upon me or cause me injury except by a jury of my peers or the law of the land. If you're going to violate my rights like that by stealing my truck, then you might as well just go all the way and take me over there and blow my brains out, because by the time I'm done with you, you're going to wish you did, and I'll do it all within the law. And so anyways, we talked like that for a while. And then I told him that your code's rules and regulations don't apply to me anyways. They apply to corporations. And I had my paperwork. I just got back from my seminar in BC. And so I had my paperwork in the back of my truck, and I pulled out one of my PowerPoint presentations, and I showed him the Interpretation Act and the the Traffic Safety Act in Alberta, and how a driver's a person when a person's a corporation. And he took that. And he went back. By then there was like 3 cop cars there, and he went back and talked to his supervisor, whoever back there, and then he came back and he gave me all my paperwork back, and he says, "You're free to go. Have a nice day. Drive safely." But so, anyways, the thing is we got to get them trained. You know, nobody's doing it. The more people that do it, you know, I mean, you just give them notice. Like there was in Texas, I was serving them with these things in Texas, and there was a friend of mine that was driving in this town in Texas that I had served my documents on, right? And he had plates on his vehicle like this. And if you read my documents, that's one of the things I tell him. I might have plates like this. I said, and I will have private vehicle or non-commercial or something on mine, because I try and make it so that it can cover a lot of people. Because there's so many people that are clueless out there. You know, anybody, I try and help as many people as I can. But anyways, so the cop comes up to him and he sees the plate and says, "Oh, Republic of Texas." And the friend of mine says, "Yeah." He said, "You want to see my ID card?" And the cop says, "No, that's okay. Have a nice day." And he left. And that was it. It's the end of the discussion. So we're getting them trained in Texas. But you still, you know, we got to get them trained. That's all. Yes.
This apostille, I've heard this before, but I never really looked into it. What is this apostille you're talking about?
All the apostille does is certify that a notary public is a notary public. That's all it does. But it says on it pursuant to the Hague Convention, right? So
International.
So it's international. That's right. And so it's all they do is, I can bring it in. I'll show you the one I got. It's just a cover letter that is done by the Secretary of State that says that this is a real notary. That's all it says. But it's a apostille for international commerce. But so anyways, the important thing to understand is that if they will use whatever you tell them, if you pull out that straw man's driver's license, then you're essentially saying, "I want to be the surety for your fictitious entity," and they will proceed. And this is why the city of Lethbridge, I pulled out a passport. I never did pull out a driver's license, but I pulled out a passport. And so they're charging the passport. And so I'm going to go for the jugular. They'll probably wind up convicting their straw man, but by the time I'm done with them, I guarantee you they're not going to be looking for me. They'll be looking for that fictitious entity out there. You see what I'm saying? I'll make sure that they know in no uncertain terms that they don't want to be looking for me. And so, you know, whatever, they can go ahead and look for their straw man, I don't care. And when I was in Calgary, I didn't pull out nothing. And that's why they told me to leave. You see what I'm saying? Because they know they didn't have any authority. That's the key. Is don't give them anything. Except maybe like Robbins, he's got these ministerial certificates that he uses. And so if something you make up, there's nothing wrong with it. And they want to know who you are, that's fine. You know, make something up. Anyways, so because we're under martial law, the courts presume everything. If you go on the attack, you can defeat their presumptions, but you have to go on the attack. If this procedure is followed properly, the system will deal with any criminals that are exposed. They will take care of it for you. If this is done properly, they will take care of it for you. All you have to do is start noticing them and filing criminal complaints and stuff, and things will happen. It's amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've had people removed. I've had the U.S. attorney in Arizona removed. I've had 2 U.S. attorneys in Texas removed. I've had, when I was in the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Solicitor General waived his right to respond. I filed a criminal complaint against him for perjury of oath because he waived his right to respond. 2 weeks later, he was out of there. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've done this. Mark Everson, I filed a $15 million commercial lien against Mark Everson, who was the IRS commissioner, and I filed several criminal complaints against him. George Bush had him on the White House lawn, said, it's the toughest job in the country. and he was out of there. But the interesting thing is that all commissioners have a 5-year term. Well, when he left, they had an acting commissioner that took his place, which tells me that he left before his term was up.